The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
Obviously, we over budgeted last year. I hate to say that I was right, but I was right. So.
And I think that that's what we need to look at more, is trying to get back to what we used to be, where our churches and our families took care of each other instead of relying on the state.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
I take our constitutional rights, the constitutional rights of my constituents, very seriously.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
Mr. Speaker, no matter how you look at it, no matter how you boil this down, there is never any time that a parent's right to govern what their children see and what they're exposed to should ever be bypassed.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
We need to start making Idaho first. We need to start making America first.
We need to be protecting our First Amendment rights, not inventing ways to slowly chip away at them.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
We've removed unnecessary licenses as well as barriers to practice. House Bill 107 builds upon those, what we've done in the past, and just is consistent with allowing citizens to thrive in the state of Idaho. The goal of this bill is to allow for the education, training, and experience to lead the way for many of our constituents. A few questions that came up in committee that I'd like to answer just to remove any kind of concerns from this body is, does this expand practice for something like optometrists using lasers? The short answer is no, it does not. It does not actually expand the scope of practice. On line 2 of the bill, page 2 of the bill, lines 18 and 19, limits the acts that are consistent with but not expressly prohibited by Idaho code. Optometrist is actually an excellent example of that because in section 54-1501, subsection 4 of Idaho code expressly prohibits the use of lasers for optometrists. It does not expand scope. What it does is it allows for our licensing boards, and there's nearly 50 of them in our state, to have clear direction on the practice authority that they should be allowed for each licensee. Another question that came up was, would the standard of care be set up in Idaho, or would it be Washington or a national board? The bill is very clear in that the standard of care is established by Idaho, an Idaho licensing board, comprised of Idaho appointees by our Idaho gentleman on the second floor in accordance with Idaho law. The language.
All right, folks, welcome to Idaho Signal. We are having a live shot there of Representative Jordan Redmond with House Bill 107 dealing with occupational licensing and Occupational Licensing Reform Act. You know, occupational licensing, say that 10 times fast, always kind of like a point of contention. You know, it's one of those things that's like, oh, you want to license this and a license that, and then it costs so much to go get a license that it's kind of like a barrier to entry for those who are trying to make it in that profession. So it definitely needs reform. Idaho isn't as horrible as some other states are, but it could always be better. Welcome everybody. It is Washington's birthday. Happy birthday to our founding father, the father of our country, George Washington. I like to call it Washington's birthday, because that's actually what this holiday is. This is a nationally recognized day off. It's in the Federal Register, and the day, it's not called President's Day, it's called Washington's birthday. And there is no consensus on why it's called President's Day, or even how you would spell presidents. Is it President's Day, like apostrophe S? Is it just plural presidents, or is it S apostrophe, like all the presidents' day, like SS? Probably, like, there's no consensus. You have no idea what it is. If you think you do, you're wrong. There is no consensus. Anyway, it's Washington's birthday, so we celebrate that. So speaking of presidents, President Trump just posted on Truth Social over the weekend. He said, "Congratulations to Governor Brad Little and Idaho legislators who are fighting to bring school choice to their beautiful state. $50 million to empower parents to provide the very best education for their child. Great news for Idaho families. This bill, which has my complete and total support, must pass." That was tweeted out just yesterday afternoon, posted up on his Truth Social, and then, of course, spread across X and all other social media there. That is House Bill 93. It's making its way. It already passed the House floor. It's headed over to the Senate, and I believe it passed the committee in the Senate. Am I wrong? Are we still waiting for that? I don't think it actually, I don't think it has yet. I don't think it's still going to go through the committee in the Senate. So we will pay attention to that, of course. And it looks like that this is going to, after many, many years of trying to get some sort of school choice bill that would direct money to follow the student wherever they may be. This might be just the bill that makes it across the line and opens that door for more education freedom. We're also paying attention to HJR 1, which is the constitutional amendment that would protect homeschoolers and protect parents and make them the sole authority for their child's education. Okay, what we want to do, though, first, real quick, speaking of, since we're on the national news right now, RFK got submitted to, or he was confirmed. He was confirmed as head of HHS, which I know made a lot of folks here in Idaho very, very happy. And so when you think about this whole MAHA and MAGA movement, we have a fantastic video here from our great folks at In the Know Idaho and Lily Almonds. Let's check it out.
What can I get started for you?
Well, I have a couple of questions. I was wondering where you guys source your beef from. Is it local, or where do you guys get it?
I'm gonna do a McCrispy Spicy Deluxe meal with the extra fries on that guy. I'm gonna do a number 2 cheeseburger. I'm gonna do a Filet-O-Fish.
I love this section.
Nope.
Really excited about this celery. It's organically grown, if you didn't notice. A lot of work by our farmers. It's not easy, but they do a great job.
Not meat. None of this is meat.
I had kind of a similar question about the potatoes. Are those Idaho potatoes?
A couple of Sundays, a McFlurry, maybe a 6-piece McNugget on that guy as well.
Oh, this is great stuff. There are a lot of food dyes in here which are derived from petroleum, so we won't be eating these.
Petroleum? Drill, baby, drill! That's what I'm talking about!
Oh, yum! They have my favorite snack. Gluten-free, dairy-free, nut-free, soy-free, heavenly cream cakes. That's going in the cart. Do you guys cook your fries in seed oils?
Cooking vegetables.
Okay. Have you ever thought about using tallow?
Bacon cheeseburger, another 4-piece McNugget, and a Big Mac meal to top it off.
Sorry, I'm kind of a little particular about my diet. No. The inflammation.
Nothing better than a good old-fashioned American steak.
Caramel color, aspartame, but it is in a 100% recycled bottle.
That should be enough. Ugh.
I think I'll do a medium fry.
Anything else?
I think that's all for today.
Yeah, I think just a medium fry will do it.
Well done, In the Know Idaho. I love that. Some great stuff out there. Those, of course, are also posted on our X account, over on Instagram, Facebook, all over the place. So be sure to follow @InTheKnowIdaho and share those videos around. It's always fun. Okay, thank you, Lily Allman. Speaking of the Allmans, no relation. Brian Allman will be on with us a little bit later. But we do have we got a voicemail that came in over the weekend, so that's great. We'll play that later. And then also we have we want to get in depth on a bill that passed the House last week. It was H-98, which is the bill that would limit the teachers the funds and public money being used for teacher union purposes and so forth. And so we kind of want to dive into that a little bit more. And I wanted to play some clips from the debate that happened on the House floor. We watched some of it live, I believe, if I recall correctly. But we kind of want to walk you through this, and we have some other information here from a great organization called Freedom Foundation, not Idaho Freedom Foundation, but Freedom Foundation, that discusses this issue and has looked at it in depth here in Idaho. And so we'll share some of that first. But real quickly, just to get you up to speed on this. And I think, I think we will put up the bill, that highlighted bill that we have here. This is H-98. And it kind of disregards some of the highlights here because we used this for a previous, when we were looking at Representative Clow's comment on here. But basically what this says is that no public official in a position of authority over a professional employee may authorize the use of taxpayer funds to promote teachers' unions. And one of the ways that this happens is by deducting dues directly from a teacher's paycheck or a union member's paycheck on behalf of the teachers' union. And it sends it right to the teachers' union or an affiliate. The other things that may or may not occur, or I'm sorry, that may occur but not widespread, but may occur in Idaho, is increasing a professional employee's compensation with the intent that the additional compensation can be used to pay off a teachers union. We'll get into that. This bill would also stop providing more personnel or more personal or contact information of a professional employee to a teachers union affiliate, giving them their information to disclose all that. It would also stop the requiring or the coercing of a professional employee to meet, communicate, listen to, or otherwise interact with a teachers union or its affiliate. Also distributing communications or membership solicitations on behalf of the teachers union. And contributing public funds to or expending public funds on behalf of a teachers union or its affiliate. And of course, those are just a few of the highlights. The bill's a couple pages long here and goes into greater detail. So let's go back. So let's set this up. One of the more interesting things during this debate, and Representative Judy Boyle was the one to open the debate with this and to sponsor the bill on the floor. One of the interesting things is that most people, when they stood up to take on this bill, they only focused on that first part, the deduction of dues. And it struck me kind of odd because they all kept standing up saying how they oppose this bill because deducting dues just seems so it's easy. You don't have to worry about it. It doesn't cost anything and all this sorts of stuff. So let's watch a couple of these. Here's Representative Josh Wheeler from District 35 all the way down in the southeast corner of the state. Let's listen to some of his debate.
Gentleman 35.
Mr. Speaker, to debate the bill.
Gentleman, have the floor.
I think one of our fundamental rights is enshrined in the First Amendment, and I think this bill reaches too far into our citizens' First Amendment rights, the right of peaceable assembly. This is one of those national solutions that has come looking for a problem or an issue that really does not exist in Idaho. None of our districts, as the good sponsor intimated, are required to interact with their union represented teachers in the ways that have been discussed. Those are decisions that have been made at the local level. And so in the areas where union representation exists and the superintendents or the school district have chosen to interact with those teachers in this way, I think it is positive that we leave that decision in the hands of the local individuals. In the districts where there are not unions, yes, they don't have issues with local control because we are not trying to reach into their First Amendment rights and take away that ability to assemble. I think it's also important to recognize that this bill goes a little far in its definitions of what receiving taxpayer funding is. Again, if school superintendents or school districts have found it more convenient and a better solution to negotiate with their union represented and non-union represented teachers on school property, I think we should applaud them for being fiscally responsible in that way. And then the other thing I will mention is, again, this just isn't, it's not an Idaho issue. I think we see that our Idaho unions, our Idaho represented teachers, really help create solutions that we as a legislature have even mandated. We have requirements for them in their certifications, in their qualifications, and we find that our Idaho unions provide that training at, frankly, a discount to the Idaho taxpayer. The taxpayer's not paying for those trainings, but if we have this bill go through, the taxpayer will end up being on the hook for those trainings. It will be on the hook for negotiations and conversations that occur off-site. And so for that reason and several others, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to be a red light on this one.
All right, Representative Wheeler, be careful what you say when you talk about taxpayers not paying for trainings. I have a list of professional development trainings that the taxpayer pays for to send teachers and administrators halfway across the country, New Orleans, Las Vegas, Denver, Miami, wherever they go, to have these like junkets on your dime to learn professional training and to learn professional developments. What other job out there sends you on a yearly basis or sometimes a quarterly basis to some training somewhere on taxpayer dime, right? Like, come on now. If you want to become a better teacher, it's up to you to become a better teacher. It's not up to me to pay more money for you to go off and learn and hang out at these DEI fests out in these teachers unions. Okay, I digress a little bit because that's not exactly what we were talking about here. But if he wants to go down that road, we got plenty of evidence and plenty of receipts for that. Okay, let's go over to Representative Mark Sauter, who had a much more brief objection to this bill. But let's listen to this.
Gentleman like to debate the bill?
I would like to debate against the bill. Yes, sir.
Gentleman has the floor to debate against the bill.
Thanks. All of us stood up and recognized our flag earlier this morning. We finished with liberty and justice for all. I think as a group, I should say for myself, I have great respect for the freedom to associate and the freedom to work together. As a fire chief, I worked for years with our union. I was a union member before that. We had great benefits from working with the union. When I called home to ask about this, our school superintendents got back to me and said, it works. We have a great relationship with our union. On my watch, a number of years ago, we did payroll deduction. The money never came out of the city's pocket. It was our own pocket that we decided that we would send for, it was a union dues, or it was United Way, or it was for our federal taxes, or our state taxes, or a myriad of other credit union donations or savings. So all of those processes are there. I don't believe there's a cost to our citizens for people to say, yep, put $15 towards whatever it is. So I don't see that as a use of taxpayer funds. So anyway, with the recognition of the benefit for our unions, our teachers.
Representative Mark Sauter there, he wraps up briefly. Let's skip over to Representative Jack Nelson out of District 26.
Debate against, please.
Gentleman has the floor.
Okay, I think one of the issues that is not on the agenda today or part of this information is simply put, unions in some large districts fulfill the role of an HR department. It's simply cheaper for the district to ask one of the union's members to negotiate a labor complaint than it is to have an HR department or bring in outside contractors to do that. End of the day, I think it's been shown pretty clearly that it saves on litigation costs and supplies a relatively good resolution to some of those problems. So And I think this and the discussion have just simply overlooked that.
Yeah. Pardon me about that. Okay. Did I have one more? Oh, Clow. Let's listen to Clow again.
Right to work state, and I supported that wholeheartedly. I have some resistance to the idea of public employees being in a union. However, when I looked at this bill, I think it went too far. And I recognize that it went too far on one of the very first sections of the bill when it starts out with the word dues. If it's too costly or is a cost for a school district to deduct the dues from a paycheck and then remit that most likely electronically to a union, then that's pretty petty. That's very, very narrow. And I think but the good lady from 9 pointed out a bunch of egregious things that I think can happen and do happen with state taxpayer funds. And I would support that. But when they start out with one of the very first words is dues paid as a deduction from the payroll voluntarily, and the money is coming from the employee, that I think that just goes too far. And I told the gentleman, lobbyist that came to talk to me, why do you...
Oh, that's just too far. When they start with the dues, that just got me. Everything else in there, yeah, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. But the dues thing, oh my God, that's just petty. That's just petty. Is that how you want to be? Is that who you want to elect? People who are just like, oh, that's petty. Petty nonsense. I'm out of here on that. Oh my goodness. Folks, it's so interesting. It's so interesting. The dynamics here. Okay. It's so interesting. The dynamics here. Okay. So, I want to bring up an article. Okay. This is from the folks over at Freedom Foundation. This was published just a couple weeks ago. And this is how they tell you how Idaho tax dollars support teachers unions. And, if you guys want to scroll down a little bit, there's a kind of a bullet point list. It starts with number 1, and number 1 here. And again, this is Idaho. Out of the 83 districts, at least 52 deduct union dues from educators' paychecks. How petty to stop that. And over the course of the year, the district collects about $4.4 million in dues from over 5,000 teachers. And about 1.1 of that is forwarded to the NEA headquarters, the largest labor union, the largest leftist-leaning labor union in the United States, the NEA. And they use all of that to advance their political advocacy. The total cost to taxpayers to collect dues, it looks like it actually could run tens of thousands of dollars. So it's not nothing. It's not nothing. It does cost us money to use those programs. Now, the interesting thing here, well, let's go back to this article because I want to give the thunder to Representative Tanner here. Because one of the points that was in the bill, it said we will not allow districts to negotiate contracts that add extra money in order to make up for union dues from the union member. And again, that's an egregious. That's one of the more egregious things, right? Well, let's listen to Representative Josh Tanner out of District 14.
14.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate in favor.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First off, I want to thank the good lady for bringing this forward. I actually do think it's actually a good bill. I do not think it actually attacks teachers. I do not think it attacks unions. I actually think it just states that we do not want them to check the box. We do not believe that certain activities need to be crossed over. But beyond that, we've got contracts, and I'll point out, I think the good lady kind of addressed it when she first was giving her debate, but the city of Boise, their union contract has a 1.132% professional service that's put into their contract that they get paid for the preceding year. When you start looking at that and you go, okay, what professional service? Why are you getting an additional amount within that? And then you go back and you look at how much they're actually getting paid, what they're paying in for their dues for their union ones. It matches pretty much up right away. So I do think there's conflicts. I do think that there's issues that we've actually run into, and this just helps really draw that line to make sure that we don't have those issues going forward. So with that, I would recommend your green.
Well, look at that. Let's go back to that article. Number 2, school districts paying teachers union dues. Now that doesn't happen, right? Well, the Boise School District, as just pointed out by the good representative Josh Tanner, the Boise School District offers a teacher a monthly salary enhancement approximating the cost of a teacher's union dues, and nothing would prevent a district from explicitly paying teachers' dues or, for that matter, contributing funds directly to the union. So there it is. It just so happens that there's a what did he call it? A compensation enhancement of 1.32% or whatever. Like, what does that even? Of course, that's for union dues, right? The next one, enhanced access to teachers' personal information, right? Teachers unions in at least 2 districts have successfully bargained for the right to personal contact information about teachers that any other member of the public would be prohibited from acquiring under the Public Records Request Act. So a union, which is a completely private organization, has been able to negotiate with the state or with these districts for contact information to contact these teachers. And why would they want to do that? Because if they're not in the union, they want to make sure they are, and they want to have the data, right? Number 4, union Number 4, union participation and membership solicitation during new employees orientations. So when staff and potential union members, future union members, show up for orientation at least a dozen school districts, they allow teachers unions to solicit membership as part of the district operated new hire orientation process with no apparent ability for teachers to opt out. And then number 5, at least 51 school district teachers unions contracts include release time provisions requiring taxpayers to foot some of the bill for the teachers' time spent outside of the classroom doing union business. This was something that was brought up in committee. And then, of course, access to the school facilities and resources. You've heard some of the arguments saying, well, it's much cheaper if they just have all the business on campus. Sure, that may be true. But the union has a ton of money. Maybe they could host a negotiation over at the Holiday Inn, right? It doesn't have to be on the taxpayer dime, right? That's what we're talking about here, folks. Representative Rob Beiswinger had some comments as well during the debate. Let's listen to those.
Floor.
Just a few things here. Idaho is a right-to-work state that was passed back in the 80s, and that law makes it so that no employee can be required to pay union dues or fees as a condition of employment. And so that's really the Idaho way. And from what I can tell in this bill, a teacher can still choose for themselves as an individual whether they can join a union or not. So that right is still respected. They can still ask for them to be bargained for. And, back in the days when unions started, it was considered unthinkable by the union officials that public sector employees would be unionized at all. So actually, I think this bill respects the right both of taxpayers and of the teachers who would want to join a union and not want to join.
Thank you, gentlemen, for the debate.
Yeah, very good, Representative. One of the things that he mentioned there was that this was the Idaho way, right? However, I think Representative McCann wanted to take a few jabs at this bill and sort of use the idea that this is a national problem, because it is, as somehow not being an Idaho problem. Let's listen to this following exchange here during McCann's debate.
Time. So I think that we just need to be careful, because saying a free ride, talking about teachers kind of puts this in a bad light, and I think the teachers have taken enough of a hit and this bill just is going too far. And I agree, this is not an Idaho bill. This is a bill that comes from out of state. We always are saying, let's do this the Idaho way. Let's stop bringing in out of state.
Good lady, your objection is noted, and please not talk about the out-of-state folks, talk about the bill.
Okay, I believe the bill is from out of state, but that's fine.
Mr. Speaker, I object.
The bill did come from the Education Committee, if I'm not mistaken, and it did come from Idaho. It didn't come from another state, so try to keep it that way.
Okay, I think we know what I'm saying, so I
think we do know what you're saying. But the bill, I love that from the speaker. The bill came from Idaho. It came from the Education Committee right here in Idaho. Very done. Very, very well done. But yeah, I mean, preposterous. This is dealing with an Idaho problem. We just went through a list of put out by the folks at Freedom Foundation that talked about what's going on, right? These are the numbers. These are the numbers, folks. All right, let's listen to Representative Judy Boyle bring it home.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you very much, members. It's always good to have a lot of debate on a bill that's a little controversial. First of all, I don't believe that I said teachers get a free ride. I said unions are getting a free ride at the taxpayer's expense. Number two, this is not about stopping collective bargaining. It's in code that the teachers union and the firefighters can do collective bargaining. Number three, this has nothing to do, did you see the word firefighter anywhere in this bill? Or law enforcement? No, we're not talking about those unions whatsoever. I'd like to remind the members that over 50% of our general fund goes to the K-12 schools. Therefore, we do have a reason to be involved on what goes on with the taxpayer money. And last of all, we're just asking the unions to cover their own expenses. Thank you. I'm asking for your green light.
Amen. That's right. Pay your own expenses. Pay your own expenses. My gosh, 50% of our overall budget goes to the education? And what happens when we keep increasing? Well, the unions just say, look what I get. Raise the dues. I mean, that's what I would do. If you're getting more, if your teachers are being paid more, you say, well, the reason you're getting paid more is because of our union activities. So the dues are going up. And then what do they do? What do these unions do? Why is this such a big deal? Well, we're going to take a quick break. Brian Allman is going to join us, and we'll talk about why this is such a big deal. All right, folks, we'll be right back.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
Idaho is the dirt under your fingernails after an honest day's work. Idaho is the hug around your neck when your daughter spells her first word. Idaho is the written word of the law, steadfast and impartial, guarding liberty for all. Idaho is the family rifle passed down, a legacy of protection and the right to stand firm. Idaho is the echo of your own voice, unshaken and free, standing tall among the world's silenced. Idaho is the home that's built to weather storms, not empty wallets. Idaho is the quiet trust between a patient and healer, unbroken and sacred. Idaho is the hymn carried by the Spirit, gathering neighbors together in faith and purpose. Idaho is the laughter around a campfire, a family's bond growing stronger with every word. Idaho is the pioneer's will, firm and clear. We govern ourselves, free and unbound. Idaho is what America was. Let's keep it that way. Ask your legislator to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge to preserve our shared values. We ride together.
All right, folks, welcome back. We have been diving into House Bill 98, which deals with ending any sort of public taxpayer money, public taxpayer resources from supporting or helping the teachers unions. And the reason why this is important, this is not against teachers. This doesn't reduce the pay for teachers. It doesn't reduce their ability to teach. It doesn't reduce their ability to get hired and get tenure or anything like that. Is tenure even a thing in K through 12? What this is all about is union activities. And the biggest union activity outside of doing, it might be even bigger than the bargaining that they do every few years for contracts, is all of their political work. Again, the Idaho Education Association is a teachers union in Idaho, and they're an offshoot of the National Education Association, which is the largest labor union in the country. So joining me now, of course, Brian Allman. Good to see you, Brian. I wanted to dive into this today. And so I know this is something that you've been paying attention to. We've been talking about it here and there on this program for a little while, but I wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive here for folks because I think this is a very important bill. It might get it passed the House, but it might get might be harder to do over in the Senate. And so we really want people to be informed about this and make the right decision. So let's talk a little bit about the IEA union. Freedom Foundation, which is different than Idaho Freedom Foundation. Freedom Foundation published an article. We had one up earlier about where how tax dollars support unions. They have another article that came out today. Actually, I believe it's today. Is today the 17th? It is. This article came out today. So let's, if the producers can throw that up here, 93% of Idaho teacher union political spending benefited Democrats in 2024. Democrats in Idaho, 93%. Incredible. Not only that, they also supported Proposition 1 in the fight last year, Brian. So based on what you've seen so far, what is your analysis about the political activity that IEA is engaged in?
Well, I mean, what more is there to say? You went to the IEA website last week and showed what they were doing, promoting pride flags in schools and things, and the insidious thing is they're obviously a left-wing organization. I saw a stat that 95% of donations from the NEA members, National Education Association, went to Democrats. I found another one showing the other teachers union, American Federation of Teachers, was 99% to Democrats. So they, you see the list here. There's no question that this is a left-wing organization that wants to push left-wing ideas not only in our schools, but in our whole society. Add to that, they assume they own our children. There's numerous quotes of teachers union leaders saying that they're our children. We know what's best. Parents don't know what's best. We need to have control of this. They also think they own your tax dollars, not only directly here, the fighting against House Bill 98, saying that we, taxpayers must continue to support unions through various things like paid time off for political activities. But they also, every time there's a school choice bill, $50 million for House Bill 93 is less than 0.02% or 0.2% of the total budget for education, and they fight against it, saying that this money should be instead going to schools. They believe that your children are theirs. They believe that your tax dollars are theirs, and they have an extremely left-wing worldview. But as you said last week, they cloak this under being just a professional organization of teachers, and how dare you oppose teachers?
Yeah, exactly. Well put. Well, great summation there. All right, let's dive into a little bit to these numbers here. This graph here, of course, is on this Freedom Foundation article, and you can just see how out of the 2024 general election endorsements, they endorsed 34 Democrats, and the GOP is broken up, but there's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 GOP. One competitive GOP race, 8 that were safe, and 4 that were unopposed, and then 1 independent, and then what is this, GOP plus a Dem? I don't know what that purple one is.
So they did a dual endorsement of Senator Ron Taylor and Lori Likely, the Republican challenger. They endorsed both of them.
Oh, they endorsed both of them. Okay. Right, and that was a 3-way race. There was an independent in that race, so they were basically saying, don't anybody but the liberty-minded independent. Let's not have that person in here. Okay, very good. And then I think there was another. Oh yes, so let's go down here about the spending, because this is about where all the money goes, right? So there's a chart down here that shows how much money that they kind of. Explain how a PAC will collect all the money, and then they will send it to other PACs to do the work, so that it's not directly tied to their PAC. There's nothing illegal about this. I wouldn't even say there's anything unethical about it. It's just this is how they're going to move their money around in order to support support their issues.
Right. It's, I mean, basically, like you said, they move the money around. It's, like, I was digging into a couple years ago how the governor has a PAC that moves money to another PAC that moves money to another PAC, and then that PAC goes and buys advertising against conservative senators. IEA does the same thing. PACE is their Political Action Committee for Education. That's the PAC that's directly associated with the teachers union. But they also created another PAC called Right to Learn that it was essentially a Get Wendy Horman PAC. They put $90,000 into Right to Learn, and a huge majority of that money went to going after Representative Horman out in her race. They were really trying to take her out because she's obviously sponsored some school choice legislation, and they threw a few bucks to others as well.
Yeah, well, if you scroll down a little bit, Freedom Foundation has a chart here that kind of clearly shows how much they put out against Wendy Horman. So you can see that. I mean, that's like the most of their spending, all of it, I would say. Maybe 90% of it. Looks like it was there to oppose Representative Wendy Horman. She's at the top there. The others were Representative Steve Tanner, Representative Chris Bruce, Representative Rob Beiswinger, Senator Christy Zitto, Representative Marmon, Representative Kaler, Senator Foreman, Senator Shippey, Representative Levitt, Senator Cole. Those made up the bulk of the opposition.
And just to explain to readers how PACs do this, PACs can give money to candidates, but they're limited by the amount of the limits, which is $1,000, I believe, for a legislative race. However, they can do what's called independent expenditures, and that's where you get the mailers or the social media ads that say vote against this person because they're bad, or vote for this person because they're good, and they have no limit on how much they can spend on those.
Right.
The only caveat is that they can't coordinate with the candidate's campaign on those.
Exactly. And as somebody who also helps run a PAC, that's exactly what we do. You run mailers, you do door knocking, you do text, you do all sorts of different things on behalf of a candidate that you're supporting or oppose without coordinating, of course, with the campaign that you're trying to help. Okay, and if you scroll down, you can start to see that it turns to green, which is support, and then those numbers build up, and their largest support was for Senator Jim Woodward. Another Republican registered out of District 1 up in Bonner and Boundary County, and he was in a tough race against Senator Scott Herndon, who was a force to be reckoned with when he was down there during his single term at the moment. And then of course you see the other folks that are listed on there too as receiving a lot of support. So it'll be interesting to see as this makes its way over to the Senate, how hard Senator Woodward may or may not oppose H98, considering he was a beneficiary of, it looks like, about 11 grand, 12 grand worth of support from just Right to Learn alone. Mm-hmm. And then there's another PAC, Stronger Idaho. If we scroll down a little bit, doing the exact same thing. It looks like they were really focused on Representative Tanya Burgoyne out in Pocatello. She was in a general fight against the Democrat, right?
Yes. That District 29, there was an incumbent Democrat, Nate Roberts, and Tanya Burgoyne was challenging him. And, she ended up winning, but they, certainly tried to stop her there. You also had, a race against Representative Manwaring was there as well, and Senator Ruckty. The Democrats still have the Senate seat out in Pocatello.
Right. And again, Representative Brandon Mitchell, Senator Foreman, they're both in the same district, so they received about $6,000 worth of opposition money. And then down at the bottom, this Stronger Idaho was in full support of the Democrat Steve Birch and let me repeat that, the Democrat Steve Birch.
Wait, he's a Democrat?
He's a Democrat. Can you believe it?
Huh.
And Democrat
Never see it on his signs.
Senator Ron Taylor. You don't see that on the signs, and we heard an interesting bill earlier this morning. If we have time, we want to get to. Okay, so that was Stronger Idaho, and then they come down to a conclusion here, ending up the research on the endorsements and the spending. Okay, and this is from our good friend Maxford Nelson over at Freedom Foundation. So thank you to Maxford for sending us all this info, pointing us in the right direction, because this is definitely something that we wanted to dive into. So now to the point, to push back a little bit, because Freedom, this isn't the Idaho Freedom Foundation, this is Freedom Foundation, which is a sort of a national or at least regional foundation, but they work on these issues to help states and legislators identify problems and areas to improve. And so when you have someone like Lori McCann stand up and say like, oh, this bill comes from out of state, that term it's such a boogeyman, that term out of state. It's so disingenuous to keep using that term for so many different things when all you're literally trying to do is tackle an issue that actually is happening in Idaho. Right, Brian?
Well, sure. And you notice they're not going to complain if Planned Parenthood comes in with a bill or some other left-wing organization. So it's one of those things that it's an excuse to, cover why you really don't want to oppose a bill or support a bill. And you see that a lot when you start watching the legislature. You'll watch a Democrat or maybe say a moderate Republican. They don't like a bill for some reason, but they're not going to tell you why they really don't like it. So you'll see someone get up and say, I'm concerned about the fiscal note on this bill. It doesn't seem to really accurately reflect what it'll cost. Or you see Representative Ilana Rubel, the leader of the Democrats in the House of Representatives, saying, I don't want to vote for this bill because it's not conservative. Well, I suspect there's other reasons, but for whatever reason, they don't want to say that part. So they'll find some other excuse that maybe sounds more palatable.
Yeah. Yep. That's very good. All right. Well, we're going to keep tabs on this. I know you are going to be doing the same, Almond, so that's great. I want to take a quick break. We got a voicemail to play on the flip side of that, and I'd love to have you stick around to go through a couple of other items, agenda items. Or if it's not on the agenda, you can amend the agenda, Almond, and add it to the agenda.
I moved to send the agenda to general orders.
Yeah, and I need to go find a haircut. What's going on over here? All right, folks, we'll be right back.
That's exactly what happened. You want to pull the tape? You can pull the tape because we now got video.
From Burley. I've heard about some shenanigans in the House that I wanted to rant to you about. Glenina Zeiderfeld wrote in her Substack last week about how House leadership has told her that if a bill comes through with her name on it, it wouldn't be heard. And I know that she's not the only legislator who has been told this by House leadership. And the leadership and these legislators are all pledge signers, and they're all in good standing. I find it really frustrating that people who are supposed to be liberty-minded and serving their constituents are playing these silly games and infighting when they should be working together. If it was from a left-leaning Republican or a Democrat, that makes more sense. But when they're liberty-minded, pledge signers, in good standing, the only people that hurt from these kind of silly games are us, the people of Idaho. I know that we haven't seen a grocery tax repeal bill yet because of this House leader and these legislators. So just wanted to share that with you. Didn't know if you knew that or not. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, folks, you can leave us your message. Thank you, Tricia from Burley. We'll talk about her remarks here in just a second. But if you want to call 208-402-4915, if you've got a rant. She said that was her rant, and she was very pleasant. I like Tricia. She's very, very reasonable. What do you think, Brian? She sounded very reasonable.
It was a very reasonable rant. I'd like to hear more rants like that.
Yeah, too. You know, keep your blood pressure down. All right, folks. Yeah, please send in your voicemails. We'll play them on the air here. Yeah, Brian. I mean, it's the issue that just won't die. It's the biggest political football, it seems like, in Idaho. Although there's a lot of political footballs here, but when it comes to like the more conservative wing of the legislature, this grocery tax thing is just absolutely incredible. I'm still trying to get my bearings straight because, you know, we've seen over the years different tactics on trying to repeal grocery tax. It made it through the legislature all the way to the governor's desk where the governor vetoed it. I don't know exactly what that bill looked like or what his reasoning was for it, or if there's a bill sitting in committee now that is not being heard yet, if that's like almost the exact same bill. Like, I don't know these details, because I know that when you do if you do just flat out repeal the grocery tax bill, you have to do a lot of things to make cities and counties and other places that receive sales tax money, you have to make them whole somehow. Or they're on their own to just cut their own budgets, right? Which is, I'm all for that too, right? Just cutting back waste and spending. But you have to be prepared for it, right? And you have to get cities and everybody prepared for a tightening of the belt. So I'm curious to know if any of your research, if you've seen any of these various bills that have repealed sales. I've seen some that are just extremely short. You know, just repeal it wholesale. Like, food shall not be taxed based on these parameters. And I've seen ones that are 6 pages long that deal with how much a percentage here and how much from the general fund you have to move and all this stuff. Anything that you've seen from any of the bills over the years that makes sense to you?
Yeah. So like you said, in 2017, the legislature passed a bill that would eliminate sales taxes on groceries. As part of that, it also got rid of what's people call the grocery sales tax. It wasn't called that at first. It was called that later, but my research says it was commonly understood as being a way of reimbursing people for the taxes they pay on groceries. That was 2017. The governor vetoed it. He did it actually after the statutory deadline, but the Supreme Court gave him essentially a mulligan, says, you're okay just this once. So that frustrated a lot of people. So people have been trying ever since to get something through. And usually the bills had both those things: eliminate sales taxes on groceries and eliminate the grocery sales tax credit. What they're trying now, Senator Zeiderfeld, Glenita Zeiderfeld from Twin Falls, posted on her Substack last night a couple pages of the draft bill that they would like to see, but leadership is not allowing to be heard in committee. They're not even allowing it a print hearing. And as readers probably know, bills, until they're introduced in the print hearing, are the personal property of the legislator who drafted them. Reporters are not supposed to be able to sneak them out and see get a sneak peek. But sometimes legislators will, of their own accord, choose to share it with people to, show them what's going on. And so that's what she's done here. And what this one does is it creates a new section in Idaho code to say that food for human consumption is exempted from sales tax. Now, there are exceptions. It basically defines, it outsources to the federal government how food is defined, saying that whatever SNAP says is food is food. So if the federal government were to say that soda and candy were no longer food, then I presume they would not be exempted as taxes from sales taxes here, which, RFK Jr. might just do that. It also has other exceptions. So if this bill were to pass, you would still pay taxes on food in restaurants, food that's heated or mixed by the seller, food that's provided with a fork by the seller. It's kind of little things, fork, plate, knife, spoon, glass, cup, napkin, or straw. But that's basically the same language that's been in past bills. So they're just using the same language. However, the bill does not include a repeal of the grocery tax credit. I think people, this is just my speculation, I think people have looked at the numbers and where the political willpower is. Somebody like me, I get more back from the grocery tax credit than my family pays in groceries. And there are other families like that. So if they were to eliminate taxes on groceries and eliminate the sales tax credit, or the grocery tax credit, I would actually pay more. And that would be fine with me, because I'd be paying my fair share. Right now, I'm getting a subsidy back. There's a little bit of redistribution going on.
Oh, I see, Brian. Okay, wait, hold on, real quick. So you currently receive, based on your own calculations, when you take the credit, you receive a little bit more back than you actually paid into the system.
Correct.
So if they were to get rid of the grocery tax and the credit, you would actually you would actually, I mean, do you lose money, or you just wouldn't get that extra money that you normally get? I mean, how does that?
Yeah, so right now I pay 6% taxes on everything, including groceries,
Right.
and so that's 6% of 6 cents on every dollar. Then at the end of the year, though, when I file my taxes, which I need to do this week, I will be getting $120 per person in my household, and with 5 children, that's a chunk of change, and it's actually more. So I get reimbursed more than what I actually paid.
Okay.
So if they got rid of
people
both,
that normally do, so people that normally have expected, oh, I get, we're going to get an extra $100 back this year. Overall, right? Let's say it's $100 or $200 back because they don't spend that much money at the grocery store for their family, and they're claiming the credit. They're going to be like, "Oh, I now I don't have that money anymore. I can't depend on that money."
Families that expect to see 120 if you're single, or 240 if you're just a married couple, or if you're a family of 4, that's $480 back. 2 parents, 2 children. That's a little chunk of change that people might be used to getting back. And so I think the political calculation is to say, well, this year we're just going to try to get rid of the tax and leave the credit. That way we're not. It's not going to look to people like we're actually raising their taxes. And we got to remember, you and I and most of the people watching this are politically engaged. We know how things work, or we know how to find out how things work. A lot of people out there, they're just going about their lives, and what's happening in the state house and in politics it's far away. And I think there is a worry that for those people who they want to see taxes gone on groceries. But if you get rid of the credit too, then they're going to come in with the pitchforks and the torches and say, "Hey, why are you raising my taxes? I'm used to getting this back."
Right. I mean, again, this is not. And look, I mean, as we go along over the years with this, it's obviously not as cut and dry as it seems. Because we didn't even get into the fact that we have to make the cities whole. I mean, if the cities have budgets and things that they're expecting to get from sales tax. And look, cities and counties, they need to tighten their belts as well. I'm not advocating for more, for more spending or anything like that. But it just seems like it's why this issue is so contentious. If it was just that simple, it'd be gone by now, because all it's doing right now, in my estimation, is creating a lot of noise, a lot of headaches. And it could have devastating ramifications down the line when there's so much on the line. There is so much on the line, Alman. I mean, we talk about it on this program every day. There's different bills that come through. I hear different stories. I hear different emails. I'm talking to people all over the state. I mean, I may be based up here in North Idaho, but I talk to people all over the state, and I'm taking the temperatures of everything. And if I can wave a magic wand, I would, but I don't have that magic wand. Yeah. And we gotta take our wins, and we gotta move the ball forward. I'm all for that. But we gotta do it. We gotta do it responsibly too. So I don't know what the answer is yet, but we're going to get there, Alman. I have faith. You gotta have faith.
I agree. I was just going to mention that Senator Zeiderveld's draft bill does include an increase of the amount of revenues that are given to cities through this revenue sharing fund. So they do have to address that. But yeah, this is an issue that a lot of people just are fixated on, making this the hill to die on, the hill to live and die on. And, while I do also share the frustration that leadership is not hearing this bill, I prefer open and honest and transparent debate whenever possible. At the same time, I don't think we can get hung up on this, because like you said, there are so many other things, so many other balls in the air, so many other possibilities for good things coming out of this legislative session, and I want to make sure those good things happen.
Yeah, I do too, Alman. I do too. So we'll keep talking with our folks. We'll keep everybody on the line. I like to say we ride together, folks, and we do. We are going to keep this coalition of good. I mean, Tricia was right from Burley, man. These are our Liberty legislators. These are our good standing pledge signers. We'll get through it. I've got faith. All right, Alman, let everybody know where we can follow you this week.
All right, gemstatechronicle.com. I wrote an article, published just this morning about the Convention of States. That's getting a lot of people talking. It's a very passionate issue people have, so go there and read that, and let me know what you think. At GemStateBrian on Twitter.
Fantastic. All right, Brian. Well, we'll check back in with you tomorrow. See you, brother. All right, folks. Thanks for sticking with us today. We got through. We got through a lot. We got through like a little bit, but a lot of it. So I hope this was informative for you. I hope you can share this episode and what you learned with everybody else. So I thank you for watching. We have a good show lined up for tomorrow as well, I believe. I have to check my notes. Reminder, lifecda.com. Get your coffee now. Promo code Signal, 10% off the online order. That's up here in Coeur d'Alene. Life Public House. All right, folks. Take care.
This bill, I think, it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.